All right, we are now recording. So
No, I gotta.
no?
Okay, there we go.
Yep. Okay. So why don't you take it away? Explain the rules. We got Ashby,
And then it
Nick
should
Burley,
stand up. There we
and
go.
Pellegrino in a group. So take it away.
Yeah. So first we place the game board down. Which we just did. Uh, uh, da, 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 da. Basically, you can start anywhere on the board, but on this demo, we started from the start and ended at the end. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So
All
what
right,
is
so
what
name
is
of the
theme
game
of your game?
is called X Factor. So basically, the game works kind of like the inspiration from the game was basically after playing a bunch of Forza Horizon. So I thought, why not try to convert it into a game, a very simple board game. Not very simple, but it's not that complicated. I promise. But basically, the way it works is that you spend your time collecting. You spend your time upgrading your car. We get to the vehicle deck. The vehicle deck is where you pick up one of three body types. You can choose between a sports car, a muscle car, or a rally car. All of them will have separate stats that will basically make your car a little bit. Will give it a little bit more of an edge, and you can fully customize it based off of the upgrade cars. So you pick up your initial car, and then you can choose one of the upgrades in the drivetrain. So you can choose like a two-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and then basically you spend your time just upgrading that car. You can only go up to you have three stats: speed, handling, and X factor. All three of them have a specific function for the game. Speed, of course, is your speed. The handling will basically be how well during an event your handling is a kind of like your limiter. It's supposed to be if you don't have the specific handling to take for this event, then you will your speed gets reduced by a factor of 2. So if I have a car that has 4 speed but I don't have the handling for the race, then I go down to 2 speed instead. So that's how it's supposed to work.
Okay.
Now, you have to upgrade the cars. You also have the poker chips at the bottom left. You use that for the money. Trying to.
This one's the 1,000.
Yeah. So
we
you
start
have
with 2,000.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the game.
You start at with 2,000 at the beginning of the game. Yeah. So, I guess take a peek.
So you're racing from slow to where?
Trying to. Is there a certain way you want us to go about explaining the rules, or is there like? Because my idea is just to go through kind of like the instructions a little bit at a time, Kearney.
Just go through a couple turns, right?
Instructions are right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you share this on?
So to set up the game, you have to place the game board on a table, placing basically all of your starting and finishing line anywhere on the board. The starting and finishing point can be at the same area, but that's okay. They can be like let's say someone starts in San Luis Obispo, they can finish in San Luis Obispo, but they can't. But they have to hit all the 40 tiles, the colored tiles that are also littered throughout the board. You also have to take out. We already took them out, but you have to take out the drivetrain deck out of the upgrade deck. So there's 200 total cars for the upgrade, but just to make it a little simpler. So next thing you put the essentially a lot of the game is just spending time upgrading your car, racing. You go into these events, you pick out an event, and you do that event, whatever it tells you to do, and then there's a certain formula that you're supposed to follow, depending on the event that got picked up by the player. For example, like, and it's very simple. The formula, it's like if you ended up getting a drag race, you would just get speed multiplied by the die roll, and you just roll the die and whatever your speed is on your car, you just make that the total for the
Formulas on screen right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So those are the formulas we typically use.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they're very very simple. They're nothing too crazy.
Yeah, nothing too crazy.
There are 3 main phases. You start at the first phase is called the upgrade phase. The upgrade phase is where you spend a majority of your time sitting there trying to trade with other players. You can upgrade your car however you wish. If you have the money to upgrade, that's the time to upgrade. If you want to sell it to the shop, you can sell to the shop, but you only get a quarter of the price of the part that you sold. If you buy from the shop as well, this is also the time you can do that, but you get to buy 50% of whatever the price of that part is on top of whatever the price is worth. So, for an example, let's just say one of the upgrades, and you grab one of the upgrades really quick.
This one's a pretty simple one.
Yeah, let's. The cost of it is $1,600. What you would do is if you sold it, you'd only get $400, but if you bought it back from the shop, you would pay $800 to take it from the shop because you have that. Since you don't have the luxury of hidden information anymore, or you have the luxury of seeing it now, so you get to be so you're basically paying because you have the advantage of now knowing what is in the deck that you can choose from. And then you still have to purchase the part. So to buy it from the shop, you pay the $800 for the part itself, and then you pay the $1,600 to put it onto the car itself. I hope that makes sense.
Okay.
So there's that, and then there's the racing phase. The racing phase or the event phase is where one player just chooses a card from the event deck, and then everybody depending on how many people you have, everybody's does the event, and then whoever has the highest score essentially wins the race. After you figure out who got first, second, third, fourth, whatever, whoever got the position in a race, it goes into the post-event phase, and this is where those little colored tiles come into play. There's your benefit tiles, your penalty tiles, and then there's these neutral tiles. So the benefit tiles, of course, like if you land, for example, on a green dot, you're going to get extra money, and it's going to be based off of your die roll. If you roll a 1 through a 3, you're going to get $50 plus, it's multiplied by whatever your X factor is, and that's what X factor is a big part of. X factor mostly deals with the money aspect of your car. So whatever you do, however you customize the car, it's just going to. So like, if you have 3 X factor, 50 times 3 is going to be $150 is what you're going to get for landing on the money slot, essentially. I also handled little edge cases, like if you had negative X factor, which shouldn't happen, and 0 X factor, you just basically get the 50 or the 100, whatever. You basically just wouldn't worry about multiplying. It would just be 50 or 100 depending on your roll. If you landed on a penalty, there's also the check engine or the car accident. You just basically pay some money. It's kind of like for me, it's kind of like the luxury tax in Monopoly. You just pay 10% of whatever your assets are, and then you kind of just move on with your day. It doesn't affect the play of the game. The only tile that actually affects if you participate in a race or not is the impounded slot. The impounded penalty is, there's only 3 of them on the map out of the 40 tiles we have around. The impounded slot is basically like you lose your turn, but you can there is a way that you can get out of it, but you have to pay $1,500 to get out of impound, and then you just continue on. If you decide to just wait, you don't get penalized. It just goes on to the next upgrade phase, is when you're able to play again. Moving forward and moving backward, it's part of the die roll. You move up 1 space or move back 1 space if you roll a 1 or 2, 3, 4, 2, 5, 6, 3. So essentially, a lot of this game is just. I really wanted to go into player customization, and one of the big reasons why I didn't like Domain is that there was so much dead there was too much dead air. You were just sitting there waiting for your next turn. And this way, everybody is still playing the game the entire time. There's nobody sitting there waiting for their next turn. Everybody is always consciously doing something and basically making sure that they, it's just supposed to be a fun game where everybody is consistently doing something. There's nobody is sitting there waiting for their next turn to start unless you land on impound, but that's, again, a very small percentage chance that's going to happen. That's one of the things I wanted to fix in Domain was the dead air, and that was kind of the core mechanic that I wanted to build off of, because that's what I don't like about board games, is sitting there waiting for your next turn. I wanted a game where everybody's consistently doing something, or at least being that is conscious of what's going on in the game.
Yeah, downtime is definitely a big side to most board games, and games that allow everybody to take actions even on other people's turns is a good way of keeping people engaged. Why don't you guys just go ahead and take a couple turns so we can just see what it looks like in practice?
Sure.
Right.
All right. So you're gonna have to put those back.
Yeah. Where's the deck? Oh, okay, that's the deck. Okay.
Yeah.
I do like the amount of time you guys spent on making the. Who made the board, out of curiosity?
Habern did.
Very nice.
Yeah, Haber did.
All right. So there we go. All right. So the game begins with all players choosing what model of card that they want. So for Habern chose the green rally car. Oh, green sports car, sorry. Is that an S? Yeah, that's an S. Green sports car. Each of them have a sort of a label on them. S for sports car, R for rally, M for muscle. I'm going to choose this. It's mine. There.
Yes, we'll
And then,
pick all the different ones for the thing.
yeah, sure. So then we go into the vehicle deck, and we just... Is there a way to flip them all? Yeah, we'll flip them all. And then you choose the card that matches your tile. So that's mine.
Actually, I want to get on to the other groups. So I got an idea of what you guys got. Let's move on to the next group. Thanks, guys. Big round of applause to Team X Factor.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else wanting to present right now? I kind of got a lot of stuff to show today, so why don't I just actually move on with lecture, and then we'll do another group on Thursday. All right. Got a lot of cool stuff to show today, so let me turn my camera on. There we go. All right, so we're going to continue our discussion of water and landscaping today. And so you might notice that I have switched out the landscape. The giant green pillar of ugliness is gone. I deleted my daughter's stairs going up to it. I spent some time trying to make better looking mountains. And so you'll notice that everything is like the same green color, which doesn't look good. But that's part of the topic for today. is how to apply textures to landscapes. Right now it's all this kind of grassy texture. You might notice that there's no obvious tiling, perhaps you can see some in there. But I did do a macro texture variation. I'll show you guys that in a second, so that it doesn't obviously have tiling issues. And you can see over here, I have messed with the water a little bit. I think looks fairly good, like that. And you can see I've actually got some different textures on the landscape here, and I'll show you guys. You can see down there I've got different textures as well. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So, and then I like the look of these landscapes a little bit better than what I had before, which was these giant, shapeless, yeah. Let's see here, modes, sculpt, you know, yeah. This is your classic video game hill right there, right? Like just this kind of featureless lump, right? And the tools that come with it, like hydro, you know, they kind of help a little bit. Erosion kind of help a little bit, but it still is very kind of not very good. This is better. Okay, the classic video game lump, you know, of a mountain is not very compelling. So and the lighting needs to be rebuilt. Fantastic. Yeah, I also made the landscape a lot bigger, and so that has made the lighting take a long ass time. So I'm just going to leave these lines on the map right now because rebuilding the lighting now takes forever. Okay, so I also changed. I got my daughter put that grass texture that was really big and ugly on it. I got rid of that and made the walls kind of shiny. Just because even though, you know, I'm not going to delete my daughter's stuff here, but I actually don't like having, you know, ugly video game stuff in my worlds, even for a class like this. So, so what should we talk about first? So the first thing we should talk about is water. Yeah, let's talk about let's talk about landscape painting. So when you have a landscape with layers on it, you can do something like this. So you can go to the paint tool and see I've got 3 different layers set up here in my on my landscape. You guys don't have that right now unless you've gone through one of the different landscape tutorials online. And Pellegrino's not muted, so I will mute him. Okay. Do we present later? Thursday. I want to get to these lecture items today. So basically, when you have different levels set up, or different layers set up, not levels, layers set up, then what you can do is come into the Paint tab under Landscape. So I've gone to Modes, Landscape, and gone into the Paint tab, and you can just basically kind of spray paint. You can spray paint different different paint onto the landscape, and this is kind of a you know, it doesn't look great, you know, but they'll actually blend together, you know. So you can see it's got some grass, got some gravel, got some dirt in there, and so you can actually kind of manually come in and spray paint things, and these things in general kind of look bad, but you know, it can be useful if you're going to like make a path. Like if I want to have a path leading down the mountain here, I could do gravel and make the so you see how there's a circle, so I can make the radius smaller like that, and the strength is how quickly it paints, and so I can just make a path going down that way if I wanted, you know. You know, and you just draw a path going down the mountain if you want. But the you can do more fall off, maybe smooth, spherical, strength of 0.3, and so see how it kind of blends better that way. So you can make a path. Might be a little bit too weak, but you see how like the edges kind of feather. That looks a lot better than just like this like MS Paint, you know, fall off 0, strength 1, right? That just looks like garbage, right? Because and you can see all the tiling and the texture there and stuff like that. So, and so this path that I made here looks a lot better. And so you're going to want to play with the strength, which is how quickly it applies the texture. Generally, I would go with a lower strength rather than higher strength. Maybe 0.3 is a little weak. Maybe I'll go with 0.4, and you can see it. You can actually overwrite your previous stuff, and it'll kind of, what happened? And so let me do this again. Okay, and so that's a 0.4 strength. So your strength defaults, I think, to 1, which is like it just slaps the texture on it. And the fall off is gone. That's what happened. That's why it looks bad. And so if you have fall off, it'll feather the edges of it. So I'll do a fall off of 0.8. And then try this again. Down to here. Yeah, and then that looks a lot more reasonable. If you look at the edges, you see how it blends between the grass and the gravel. Yeah. And then if I want, I can put snow on or cliff. The cliffs I can make gray. There's a way of doing what's called an auto material that will figure all this stuff out automatically, which is the better way of doing it. But I'm just showing you that if you want, you can sort of paint textures on there. What do you guys think? You like it? I know Vacalar or Lave, one of you guys was asking about this last time. Like, how do we paint? How do we paint textures on it? Snow, yeah, sure. There we go. Snow-capped mountain. Yeah. And if you feather it off nicely, then it doesn't look too bad. This is still like a really basic material. So let me show you guys how to do this. So I started like doing it last time and kind of ran out of time. So let me just give you the end product here. And there's like macro variation up here. I watched a video last night on how some guy did macro variation. I don't really like how he did it. The way that the Unreal people do it is better, in my opinion. But what this is doing, it's got a high frequency, medium frequency, and low frequency noise. And then they all add together and multiply together. And then what that does is it has the effect of creating, like when you look at the landscape, you see if you really zoom out, you can see there's blotches that are darker and lighter. And, if you zoom in, you can see there's lighter and darker areas. And if you get really close, well, you can see the tiling. Because his approach doesn't actually fix the tiling issue. What his approach does, it adds blotches on top of the tiling. And so you can see all the texture tiling here, and then there's areas that he darkens and lightens, but the actual base tiling is still there. The way that the Unreal people do it is they actually blend together the same texture or different textures at different scales. And so they overlap very nicely. And you see how, I don't know if can you guys see that? How there's like a repetitive streak right here? The human eye is really good at picking up patterns, right? And so his thing like adds and dark areas and lighter areas to it, but it doesn't fix the tiling issue really. And if you look at the gravel, you can see it's just very repetitive, and you can see the streaks leading down here, right? It just doesn't look very good. By blending, do you mean lerping? Yeah. So basically what you do is you have, let me go back into it, that this approach I don't recommend, but let me see if I can find it in the grass. So the way I'd recommend doing it is not the way that I have right there. It's got the grass texture here. And see, it's the way the Epic Games people did it is like this. And so they've got, see texture coordinate? This one's set to 0.75, and so they're multiplying 0.01. Yeah, so it's 0.0075. Multiplying it times this, and then they're going to lerp between negative 0.25 and 2, clamping to -1 to +1, And so basically they're using this noise pattern to blend between two different textures. One is grass, one is dead grass. And so based on this pattern here, which we can preview, right click, start previewing node, you can see how it's kind of creating some areas that are light, some areas that are dark. And what that's going to do is the areas that are dark are going to get, let's see, the dark areas are getting grass, the light areas are getting dead grass, I think, if I'm reading that right. Except it's mixing, oh yeah, it's mixing the green channel here with yellow. So basically, it's going to pull the green channel out of the grass here, multiply it times yellow to make it kind of deader grass, and then, so the areas that are dark, the areas that are dark are going to be dead grass, so there's going to be patches of dead grass, and then the rest of it will be green grass. And so that, and then they have here macro variation. So the texture coordinate here is 0.05, texture coordinate here is 1, and then they're going to lerp between these different textures at different scales. And that this process, and you can see how to do this. The Epic Games people, like, actually, you know, they know their stuff, right? They made the engine. So you can always just look at how they do it in here, or you can copy paste it. Right? Like if you want to make your texture that has macro texture variation in it, that means when you zoom in, you zoom out, you don't see tiling. Just copy and paste the grass texture, and then you can change the actual texture samples to your own. Okay. So like if I were to, and this approach just adds lighter and darker areas, but it doesn't actually get rid of the tiling, right? So you can see that there are blotches on here where it's lighter and darker, but when you really get down to it, you can see that the thing tiles all the way down. Okay, so I was trying that out last night. I would recommend not using it. Just let me show you what the place actor is. Plane. Yoink. Plane. I'm still in landscape mode. Select. Alright, so let's maybe make a cylinder or whatever. Okay, zoom up. Okay, so we got this giant cylinder here, and I'm gonna just slap the grass texture on it. That's not very good. Well, I've shown that to you before, where you like zoom in, like on the landscape, I put the grass texture before. You zoom in, you zoom out, and you don't see any tiling. Okay. So I don't really need to show that to you guys again. Let me go back into the landscape material that I made for you guys, landscape material. And talk about how you can actually paint different layers onto stuff. So the key thing to get different layers of paint that you can paint on the landscape is this thing called layer blend. And so you type in landscape layer blend, and then that gives you a layer blend node. And you have to create a new layer for every channel that you want to have paintable on the map. Like if like right here where it says 0 array elements, there's a little plus next to it. Do you guys all see that? The plus, that's the key thing here. If you don't remember this part, you're not going to be able to do this when it's a homework assignment. Everyone, give me a thumbs up if you see the plus. I don't know if you're following along at home, but you need to see the plus. Hayburn gives the thumbs up, NES. Well done, Hayburn. All right, Dahlem gives two thumbs up. Okay, so what you need to do, like if you're going to make something like this, you just click on the plus a couple times. I call mine grass, gravel, and rock, but you can have 4 layers if you want. It won't, you know, it's however many layers. That's the number of things you can paint on your landscape. Okay, so I created 3, and you have to click on the little drop down thing here, and I just give a name to each of the different layers. So I call this one layer grass, and for preview weight, that's just for the preview image. You can just give the first one a weight of 1 if you want. I think I blended mine as like half grass, half, and then the other two are half each. So the preview window here is showing real-time preview. So this one is showing half grass and then a quarter gravel and a quarter rock. It's only for the previewing. It doesn't. Okay. And so what you do is you just come in here and you just name each of the layers, layer dirt, you know, whatever. And once you get all of those layers set up, you can leave the rest of the things as their defaults. You're going to end up with something like this, where you've got grass, gravel, rock. Now let's say I want to add a new layer, like I want to paint something new on here. Well, I can just come up here and click on the plus again, and this time I will create a. Go on, let me click on it. Thank you. I will create a layer dirt. Okay, and so you can see there is now a new layer there, and I'm going to have to copy this a few times because there's this layer node is going to appear for the normal map for the roughness. Because what I have is I have the rock be shiny, and so I don't know if you can see this out here. But you see how that the rock is like very shiny, but the grass is not. All right, you guys see that? Is that coming through on Discord? Onions have layers. It's true. It's like Narnia. It's like an onion, but each layer on the inside is bigger than the last. Okay. So what you can do is you can have each layer have its own roughness, its own metallicness, specular, so on and so forth. What I did was I just overwrote the roughness, and so the rock is very shiny. But you can see the grass is a little shiny, not very shiny though. And the gravel is also a little bit shinier than the grass, but not a whole lot. Let me come back in here. Okay, there we go. And so let's say I'm going to add a new layer. And so this is the process you're going to go through for all of these. The reason why I did this last night was so I don't have to go through the repetitive process of doing this over and over again. So what you're going to do is you're going to create layer blend. You're going to add a number of plus as many times as you want to have things you want to paint, and then we're going to import a new texture. So I'm going to come up here and say texture parameter 2D, because I want these, because I'm going to create a master material, like, which is what I usually do. So I don't need to make a new landscape every time. I can simply switch out the texture layers. I'm going to call you texture 4, because again this is just a spaghetti, and I'm going to create a landscape coordinate. So landscape coordinates are how you adjust the tiling on a landscape. The normal thing with texture coordinates, you don't want to use that with landscapes. Landscapes use landscape coordinates instead of texture coordinates, and then you can change the scale of it here. And and then when you click on your texture parameter, so feed landscape coordinates into it, and just leave it at 1 as the default, which will tile, it'll tile obviously, but whatever. So for the texture parameter, I'm going to click on it, and then down here is the texture base. And so a texture is different from a material. A texture is a picture. A texture is just a 2D picture, really. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the textures browser. Maybe I can find something from Flower and Nature, maybe. Yeah. What am I trying to do? Dirt. Yeah, dirt. No dirt. No dirt. Dirt texture. Rust. Sandstone. Do they not have any dirt? rust, gravel, grime. Well, that's weird. Well, I guess I'll use rust, even though that's not exactly right. Huh, okay. So I'm going to drag rust over into here. Oops, no, I'm not actually going to do that. I'm going to come back over here. And right here, where was I? Texture 4. I'm going to select the texture. Is there really no dirt? There's no dirt. What about soil? No soil. Dead? No. Sandstone? Yeah, I guess that's close enough. All right, so I'm setting the texture to be sandstone, and then I'm just going to drag sandstone into layered dirt. And so you're going to do this for each of your layers, right? And I'm not going to hook up the macro texture variation right now. So yeah, so that is going to add a new layer that I can now paint onto the landscape. And I'll show you, there's one other step you have to do before it'll work, but that's basically it. And then because I want to have a normal map too, even though sandstone, I don't know, T metal rust. Let's do sandstone. Let's do a normal map for sandstones, and I am going to pull this texture coordinate into this one, so it tiles, the normal maps tile at the same rate as the texture. And then I'm going to delete this. You don't have to do this normally. Basically what you do is after you get your first layer blend set up, then you copy paste, or Control W is copy paste. So you basically, once you get all your layers set up, grass is roughness of 0.8, gravel is roughness of 0.6, rock is 0.5, and then dirt will be 0.9. Dirt's pretty rough, I would say. So there we go. And then we hook that up into roughness. Do you guys see how that works? And so basically for each of the inputs for a landscape material, if you want to have different layers, you have to have a layer blend for each of them. And then when the user spray paints dirt over the grass, then it chooses the dirt roughness, and it chooses the dirt texture. Do you understand? So this node here is what selects, and the user, you know, by default the top layer is the one that's used, so it'll be grass by default. But then you can come in and paint different things in there. And if you want to be cool, then you create what's called an auto texture, and the auto texture can use things like the angle of the landscape to select if it's rock or if it's dirt or if it's snow, if it's elevation that's higher, things like that, which is pretty cool stuff. We're not going to do that today. I'm just showing you guys today how to have different layers on a landscape. And then for the normal map, we need the same thing. So I'm going to Control W, which is copy paste, and we are going to hook that up into the normal map and to the ambient occlusion, because why not? And I'm just going to hook up the grass, the gravel, the basalt, because for whatever reason the granite, I'm using granite as the snow/rock texture. There's no normal map for it, so I'm just using this one. And then the dirt is here. And that's it. So you, what do you search to get layer blend? It's actually landscape layer blend, which is really annoying. So to find it, you type in landscape layer blend. The name of it isn't actually right. It actually doesn't, you know, it's not helpful. It's actually a landscape layer blend, which is just, I don't know. You would think they would just name it that, so that, right? Like, so somebody like you looking at it be like, oh, I'm going to type in layer blend. No, it's landscape layer blend. It just doesn't, yeah. Okay. It just doesn't have that name here. All right, so you feed, so basically it just selects between 4 different options in this case. And which option it picks in the real world, or the virtual world, I guess. It just depends on which one you spray paint onto the world. And that's it. There is one more step though, so I'm going to apply this. And there's one more step you have to do. I think we're done here. Save. I moved this over to an SSD, and so it is actually a lot faster now. It's quite nice. Lighting needs to be rebuilt. Not today, Death. Not today. So there's one other step we have to do, which is to select your landscape. And let's go into landscape mode here. And go into the paint tab if you need to. And you can see that I don't know if I have to reapply it or not. Interesting. Layer is not appearing here. Layer blue. Paint. Let's see if I can reapply the texture here. No. I wonder if you can't edit it afterwards. It's annoying. Well, whatever. So your layers are going to appear here. And what you do is you have to create layer info. So you click on that little plus there, and you're going to choose create weighted layer and hit save. Click on the plus there, hit save. Click on the plus there, hit weighted layer, hit save. And then you're good to go. And then you can paint dirt or grass or gravel or whatever onto it to your heart's content. Did I not save this? No, it's saved. Why is... I wonder if you can't add it afterwards. It's unfortunate. Show all layers. Okay. Default. Painting restriction. Wonder why that is not... The fourth layer is not appearing there. Oh. So, yeah. I don't know. Alright, so, anyway, so the layers will appear here, and then you can just select paint, and then you can just choose whichever one you want and paint to your heart's content onto the landscape. So that'll be your next assignment, is getting that set up. You don't have to do macro texture variation, but I do want you to make a little landscape that looks kind of nice, and you can texture different areas of it. If you want to do an auto texture so it creates, you know, cliff textures, snow textures, things like that, more power to you. But that'll be probably the next lecture. All right. Okay, so the other thing I want to show you guys today is the water plugin. So UE4 4.26 has added a really cool new feature for doing water. So before you kind of had to do something like this, where you know, you come in here and there's all my stuff. See if it falls through now. Okay. So you can see all the refraction I put on that, and you see the normal map is moving. I got rid of those absurd, like, because it was glass from before, so it had this really thick Fresnel effect on the edges of it. I got rid of that. You can see the lines on the ground because the lighting needs to be rebuilt. I'm not going to do that right now. And if I come in here, you can see that the camera turns blue as I go into water, and you notice that I'm bobbing up and down. So I have added buoyancy to the main character, and so I am swimming. And if I jump in, watch, I'll sink beneath the water. I should play a sound effect, huh? And then if I don't do anything, the character will kind of bob up to the surface. And so, let's see if I can get down further. I set up kind of a diving board on the other side. There we go. So there, and then it just floats back up to the surface. Okay. That's why I built this little diving board here, so I can jump off and show you guys this. So let me show you guys how to do buoyancy the old way, and I'm going to show you guys the new way. The new way is super cool. Let me just show you the old way. So if you go into first person blueprint, go to blueprints, go into first-person character. This is the traditional place where you can do swimming. And so as it turns out, it's already in. So if you go into first-person character, and then on the components on the left-hand side here, if you scroll down, you can see there's character movement. And so character movement has walking mode, jumping, falling mode, and swimming mode. Cool. And so if you want to adjust how quickly people run, if they have air, because like a lot of video games, you have air control. Like in Mario Brothers, you can jump off and then turn around midair and jump back the way you were before. So there's different options for all that kind of stuff that I'll let you guys play with on your own time. But swimming, and so this is the swimming speed, and then you can change, the braking speed, and then buoyancy. 1 is the default. 1 means you stay at the same depth as you're swimming. And there's, by default, no ability to swim up or to swim down, or to really do anything except move in the direction you're looking. WASD. And so what I did was I turned the buoyancy up to 1.4, and so when I jump in, you go down like this, and then it bobs you back up to the surface, which for a lot of video games is really all you need, because a lot of games don't let you swim down because the game's not really designed for it. San Andreas, I think, would kill you if you ever jumped into water, right? So a cheap way of doing swimming is just, and it's actually kind of nice. Like you jump in, like you saw my character, he went underwater, the camera turned blue, got the film grain effect, and then it bobs back up to the surface again. And so that's with a positive buoyancy. If I had set a buoyancy below 1, then the character will sink to the bottom of the lake. And you also notice the character's moving slower in water. He moves at a speed of 300 versus the normal speed of 600. Okay. So you feel sluggish in water, right? So that's how you can do that. And so that is, again, under first-person character blueprint, character movement, and you can adjust the swimming parameters. Now, let me show you guys the new way of doing things. So you might notice that I reset my landscape. I do like my new landscape. It does look better. So I'm going to add the 4.26 water to this world I created here. So if you guys have not done this, I told you guys to do this last time, but I'll show you guys again where it is. I don't know why it needs to save, but there we go. So you have to go into plugins, and if you search for water, go into the water. Turn on both of these plugins, and then you might have to reboot Unreal Engine afterwards. It will open up a whole new world. So under place actors, if you search for water, you'll see that there are now water options available. These aren't there by default. If you don't have the plugins turned on, they're not going to be there. Okay. Will you add the water SFX? Check this out. No, check this out. Okay, so I'm just going to drag out water, body, ocean, and you can see you see how there's like a white spline there, and so it's going to actually delete everything outside of those splines. Check that out, huh? Yeah. And so I can scale this up, maybe 10 times. Maybe that's too big. Maybe 3 times. Actually, I should just use proportional. Not quite big enough. So I want to keep those pretty mountains that I created. 3.5, 4, better. 4.5, even better. 5, that's pretty good. Okay. And I can adjust the center of it. That looks pretty good, I would say. So I've created an island, right? I've created an island. And so if I made a nice looking landscape, then I'm actually starting to get, like I said, if I make an auto texture, then it's starting to get into actually good looking territory rather than giant spire of ugly green plastic like we had last time. So, so what can you do with this plugin? Well, what's happening here is do you guys see that there's like a white line right there? That white line is something called a spline. A spline is a curve kind of thing. And you can actually, and what it's doing is actually clipping. Clipping means to cut, right? Like you clip a hair. It's clipping all the landscape outside of the spline. And it's actually doing so, yeah, that's like in, I think in the San Joaquin Valley, there's actually a bunch of islands like that. And actually, if we speed up a little bit, let's go down here. If we go under the water, you'll see it actually is clipping the landscape down according to a curve like this. And so, you see how it kind of has a little bit of a fall off right there. And the water looks nice, you know. So you can adjust the select spline point, select all spline points, select next spline point. So where are you? That one. Okay, so what you can do is you can actually, you can move the center of the ocean around, and it will dynamically clip the landscape as you move it, which is pretty cool. But what you can do is, rather than have it be like this perfect circle, you can have it not be. So if I pull the spline in here, look, I can reshape the island. And I can, and a spline has these guide wires here. Oops, did I miss it? Did I miss it? Rotation. So you'd sit there and play with these things and make pretty cool looking shapes. You can make a line linear if you want. So there's all sorts of just cool things you do with splines, and so you can basically kind of go to the next spline and next spline and kind of move them around. Like I don't need quite so much dead grass space here, so I can pull you down here. I want to keep my mountains, right? Rotation. This guy this way a little bit. Pull him in. And you can see in real time it's clamping, it's clipping the mountains. Okay, so yeah, and then I can have like a little open area here, or maybe I can have like an airfield or something like that. You know, come back into landscape, and we can paint. Oh, there it is. All right, and then I can paint some dirt on this. Let's see here. So let me show you guys what you do. Okay, cool. So I've created this dirt layer here, and I click on Create Layer Info, Weight Blended Layer Normal, hit OK, and there we go. And so now I can layers. I just created it, dude. Save. All right, paint, dirt. There we go. And you can see the the things thinking about it. All right. So there's my dirt layer that I just made earlier that is now deciding it wants to appear. And so I'm going to make a runway here for airplanes. So, let's see, let's make the radius 5,000 with a weak fall off. there, and then I'll put a rock layer in the middle of it, MS Paint style. This is so horrible. I can't do it. Sorry. But that's the idea, right? So when you have a landscape layer, then it'll appear here. I don't know why it didn't appear before. Maybe you have to click out, click back. But you know, I can make a nice runway here, or an ugly runway. Right? See all the tiling? It's a very ugly runway. Those are some square rocks, right? So you just see all that tiling on it. It looks terrible. Macro texture variations, where it's at. Okay, so anyhow, where was I? Oh yeah, the ocean. So if you want to come back and mess with the ocean again, it's called water body, ocean, water body, something like that. And let's see here, select mode, water body, ocean. There we go. And so you can sit there and play with it to your heart's content, and it will dynamically clip the landscape in real time, which is super cool. And if you want, you can adjust the underwater bits somewhere. Let's see. Curve settings. So you can adjust the curve of the island. You see how it's changing how it clips. And so if you want it to be deeper, you can do that as well. Channel is that edge offset. Wave source. So you can actually change how the waves work. You have different types of waves in the new water plugin. Pretty cool, right? What do you guys think? I think it's cool. The water material you can override. The underwater post-processing layer, yeah, we can go to that one. And I think it's, wow, yeah, okay. So it's got an underwater post-processing layer already set up, so you don't need to really mess with that. Enabled priority of 2 just in case. Go underwater. Yeah, so you can mess with that, so you can do things like I did there, the post-processing layer, or post-processing volume I had in here. Where you go in there and it turns blue. So it has one already, but it looks like it's, oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, nice. So it gives you one already. Yeah, and it's all done for you, right? Like, and they've already created the material and created the underwater post-processing effect. And so rather than you having to go through that process of making the material every time, it just exists and it's new and it's cool. What else could we talk about here? Gerstner wave generator. Wavelengths. Amplitude. Minimum amplitude of 40. 4,000. Death Stranding, yeah, or Interstellar, right? So you can mess with all these things, wavelengths, minimum wavelength of 10, right? 10 centimeters, and so it's got this really, yeah, 100. It's still pretty choppy. 1,000. Looks pretty nice. And so you can make the seas rough, or you can make the seas calm. You know, it's up to you. And all these things are playable. Number of waves, 100. And so it has all these different waves moving in different directions all at the same time. Number of waves, 1. That's a very, see that? Pretty cool, huh? So you can play with all these things. It's really neat. And so let's make the amplitude a little bit bigger, 80 to 160. So we'll have rougher seas, but yeah, let's give a few more waves. You feel your PC crying? Yeah. Okay, so the other really cool thing about this is that there's a buoyancy model in it. So water, where is water? Water content. So here's an example of how it works. So if you use the buoyancy system will actually interact with the whoop, ah, damn it, I flung it. Come back. No. Escape. Okay. The buoyancy system actually interacts with the ocean, right? And so it's not very buoyant, is it? You are too heavy, I think, because I made it bigger. Yeah, so anyhow, the buoyancy system is pretty cool. What you do is there's, with a plugin installed, there's something called a buoyancy component that you can attach to nodes. And so there's the box, and this guy is, I don't know how big he is, like a couple meters big. And so there is a buoyancy node that you attach to it, and not happening? Is that why it's not doing it? Yeah, anyhow. Oh, stop. That's why. Okay. Buoyancy data. There you are. And so it's got 4 different buoyant parts on it. And so this one's at -50, -50, 0, -50, 50, 0, 50, -50, 0, and 50, 50, 0. So basically what they did is they attached 4 floaty bits to the bottom of the cube. And then when the game plays, it will float, except it's not. Why is it not doing that? It was just doing this a second ago, too. I don't know. But that's the notion. I'll have to figure out why that suddenly stopped working. But you saw it originally, right? So the thing sinks in there, and then it'll sit there and bounce in the waves and things like that, which is pretty cool. So you can make boats and things really easily. Whereas here you have to use like the physics volume and do swimming and things like that. With this, you can actually have objects just floating out in the water, and it just works really, really nicely. Okay, so what do we got left? 15 minutes. Let me show you something else, and you can do things like rivers and lakes. So, river, water body, lake, sure. And so, not what I wanted. So, at the bottom of the path, we'll place a lake right there. Oof. Lower it, lower it. Too low. Too low? Too low. I don't know what's going on here. I kind of like chunked out of the landscape. All the way down like that. Oof. And then you can do things like... Fall off settings, fall off width of 0. No. Edge offset of 0. Fall off mode width. So there's all sorts of different settings you can do with these water elements, and let's pull this guy up a little bit. And it's really cool just how it interacts with the terrain and stuff like that. Let's see. Dip it down a little bit. There we go. Yeah. Right. I mean, that looks pretty sweet, you know, and you know, I might come into here and smooth out the edges. Sculpt, smooth, giant radius. Turn this down. I might, you know, come in here and kind of smooth out these edges a little bit. 100. It's being created by clipping the lake. Yeah. Let's see. Mode select you again, and edge offset of 100. No. 200. And so you can play with these settings to there you go. That looks a bit better. No, it doesn't look good. Yeah, and so it'll set a little lake here. Fall off angle of 22, so it's not quite as jarring. Fall off angle of 15. Fall off width of 2000. It starts looking a little bit better. Yeah. Edge of 0. Edge of 500. And so basically all these things you just sit there and play with, and it's really cool how it works. Z offset. That looks pretty good. Yeah, sure. Okay. And so you can make a lake really easily, and it'll just clip into the terrain. You can also make waterfalls and things like that. So if we do water body river, you can drag that out, and you can see you can just add a river, and it will just cut right through the landscape. I mean, I don't know if this is impressive to you guys, but it's pretty damn impressive to me. You know what I mean? Like damn. Like, that's a lot of work to get this done normally, and it will just very happily clip clip the landscaping, and water's flowing the wrong way here. So that's the source of the water. So let's see here. Select all spline points, select next spline point. So I'm going to put you up. So you're going to be on the top of the mountain, right over here. And then select next spline point, and I'll pull you over here. And select next spline point, and pull you over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a river that leads down to the lake. It's like a water slide right now. Right? You guys see that? Dip this into the mountain a little bit there. And on this one, the depth, I'll make it a little bit deeper. And I need to mess with the fall off and things like that as well. Edge offset of 100. Still looks a little bit like a water slide, but I can fix that by lowering you down. That. I kind of want it to match the contours of the mountain a little bit, so I can have it curve that. Then you can bring it up. I'm trying to get it so it's not really fall off angle. So it creates like a water slide by default, you know. So you have to kind of play with these values and kind of mess with the landscape as well, so it kind of matches edge offset of 0. There we go. The plugins are the ones you downloaded a week ago, so it's the water plugins, shallow water and water. I could probably add another spline node in the middle here. I mean, I don't know if you guys are impressed, but I'm pretty damn impressed by the new system. Like, it is just ridiculous. You just have to kind of play with it a little bit to make sure, like, because it creates like these water slides, you know. it wider. There we go. The water a little faster. I could probably raise the train around here to match it. It's a little better. Yep. Okay. So if I play the game now. Alright, we need to do more with blueprints too. This is a game making class, not just an art class. So you can see my pour water down here. And stop doing the refraction. Weird. The water. That's weird. Refraction it off. You can see the different. Huh. Normal map just got disabled. That's weird. And then you can see I've got different blends of textures on here. There's some grass, some dirt, some rock. You can see it underneath there too. Yeah, weird. Look at that. It's all jacked up. And my daughter's little garden underneath there. What do you guys think of those mountains back there? Not bad, right? So yeah, you got a water slide here. In general, though, you want a natural-looking water to not look like a water slide. Because in nature, you don't have water just coming out of dirt like this, right? And so you'd want to spend some time cleaning up the edges and making it look kind of realistic. But that's the general approach. So your next assignment is going to be being able to paint different layers on landscape and adding water to it. So that's it. That's basically it for today. Any questions about it? See, I don't like this right here. Yeah, this here will allow you to adjust the shape of the edges of the lake. That looks garbage. Oh yeah, that's fine. Okay. So yeah, the new, this is a new system in 4.26. Like, it's really cool. And so you just like click, and then see, before what I had was just this giant featureless green, textured whatever, and then I just dragged the ocean on top of it, and that makes it look a lot more professional. If I had a better texture on here, it would start getting into the place where I'd actually be kind of happy with it. This part here, you can see I kind of spray painted it a little bit. Doesn't look too good, and it's kind of cut away for this water source coming out here. So I'd want to do like maybe put some rocks here for the water to come out of, stuff like that. So you can kind of disguise this. You can add foam. You can add foam to the water, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. Okay. Make it white water. That'll look kind of cool. River to lake transition, river to ocean transition. A lot of options. Yeah. So, any questions about this? You know? You can do it. So you install those plugins, you drag over ocean, lake, you know, whatever you like, and the system will actually handle it really, really nicely. You just kind of have to play with the parameters so that you don't get things like this that kind of look like garbage, you know. So, what was the assignment? I know there's more than just plugins. There's two things. One is get layers set up so you can just spray paint different layers on your landscape, and then add water to it using the new water plugin. That'll be the assignment. That'll be due next Tuesday, let's say. So there's a couple different things you have to do for that. And on Thursday, I'll pick up the topic again. Okay. Are assets the only way to do caves? Yeah. So a landscape, remember, is just a height map. It's just a let's see. So basically, a landscape doesn't have any ability to do caves or tunnels or bridges and things like that, because it's just a height map. It's just a 2D picture that looks. Really? You're not letting me open it? That's. They kind of look like this. So that is all your terrain looks like. And so it's dark areas are low terrain, low elevation, and white areas are high elevation. And this is a height map plugin that I bought last night because I was trying to Google height maps. If you remember that last time, the only height map I found turned into this giant spiky mess. And so I was able to import different height maps. And the way you actually use them is you stamp them onto the landscape. Alright, sculpt using an alpha lit. So like if I wanted to add a hill, radius of 40,000, 40,000. Boop, just like that. You see that? Oop, too much. And so these are like stamps, and if you go into sculpt, you choose alpha. What that means is that the areas that are white go up further, and the areas that are black go up less. And so you can just stamp, mountains and things like that, and just add very nice, realistic-looking mountains to your world. Can you do 3D platforming games? Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Let's see. Too much. And so with these stamps here, you can just stamp nice looking terrain onto the map, and it stops looking like a it stops looking like, you know, a 90s era, you know, Creed album cover. You know, and once you get, just, see that? It just makes very nice looking terrain, and we can add a crater to it. Crater here, and shift click, shift lowers terrain, right? And so you can knock craters into the ground if you want. Too much. And then, you know, using stamps like these, you can just make very nice looking trains. Can you do 2D platforming in this class? Yeah, it's fairly common for students in this class to want to do like a 2D side scroller. About half the projects last semester were. And so for that one, you would use the 3D person. There's actually a side scrolling template you would start with, and then I would work from there. So the water system does a pretty good job blending the water together, but I would still probably mess with this a little bit. Probably slow down the water at the very end here. Maybe just push it back up. That looks pretty good. That edge there is garbage, so Landscape Sculpt hills, and I'll just take a little tiny radius 4,000. Just kind of maybe hide the boundary here, you know. Strength is way too high. So if you get cool brushes like this, then rather than just having these kind of garbage circle brushes and things like that, you can actually get pretty good detail and things like that in it. So they look a lot more realistic. Shift lowers, click heightens. So do the blue lines adjust the height of the water and the yellow adjust the shape of the water? No, you have spline points, and so you've got so this one has 3 spline points, and you can drag them around, and you can adjust the rotation, which affects the way the river bends and things like that. So like if I were to click here, you know, I can rotate it so it bends more. Yeah.
Dad.
Oh.
Souffle pancake
Nice.
with strawberry
Delicious.
sauce.
All right, guys, gotta go. I got a souffle to eat.
Souffle pancake.
Hey, what do you think of my landscape? What do you think, Ro? Thumbs up. Nice. And I built a water slide. No, you left already. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for today, guys.
Good job.
Thanks, Ro. So if you guys have any questions, I'll hang out here for a while. But basically, I don't like you. Basically, that's what I did today is your next assignment. You'll have till next Tuesday to do it. Okay? All right. Peace out.